So I said I would do a review of the Ridenow TPU inner tubes. So today I'm just going to do that. I'll show you what they're all about. So first, should probably just take this tube out so I can show you what it looks like. So the Ridenow TPU inner tubes, why I like them, they're super light. These ones are 36 grams. So if you compare that to a sort of butyl inner tube that you would use on a road bike, they're about 136 grams. So you're saving about 100 grams per wheel, which is a big weight saving. I think that's even lighter than if you were to use a tubeless setup. Because obviously with a tubeless setup you not only have the sealant but you also have an aluminium valve, whereas TPU valves are plastic. So I'll take this out and I'll show you what they're like. So one thing you do want to be really careful when you take these inner tubes out, because they are very easy to pinch, and they're a little bit less forgiving than the butyl inner tubes. But if you've got a good tyre lever, I use these Schwalbe tyre levers, then they're not too bad. So I'll just put this down quickly. Okay, so here we have it. This is the Ridenow TPU inner tube. So it's a type of plastic inner tube. It's different to the latex inner tubes that a lot of riders used to use on race bikes and that sort of thing. It's a different material. It's even lighter. It has good rolling resistance. Not quite as good rolling resistance as the latex inner tubes, I believe, but much better than a butyl inner tube. I think the main thing about them is that they're very, very light, and they're also much cheaper latex inner tubes that you can get. So as you can see there, that valve is plastic. You can almost see through it. You can see the valve core is in there. So I think you have to be really careful where you get these inner tubes from, because I think there are fakes, or there are some suppliers on AliExpress that send you tubes that just seem to deflate as soon as you put them in, or they're really prone to failing. And I think that previous valves had problems where air would leak out through the valve. But these latest ones I've had no problems with. They hold air just as well as butyl inner tubes. So the best place to get these inner tubes from is this supplier on AliExpress that I have found. This is the latest variation of the tube, I believe. It's the one that has this clear valve. If you get the ones with the black valves, I believe they're the ones that have had the problems with leaking and that sort of thing. So they come in a few different sizes. If you're just using road bike inner tubes, then you could go for the super light version here, which is 24 grams, which is ridiculously light. I just go for the 18 to 32 inner tubes, because I run 32 mil tyres on my road bike, and 36 grams is light enough. I have heard that if you do go for the 24 gram ones, the super light ones, you are a little bit more prone to failures. So I just recommend the 36 gram. If you're riding a gravel bike, then you can get the correct tubes for gravel bikes, and that looks like it suits 29er as well. There are other suppliers on here if you've got mountain bikes and that sort of thing. But this is if you've got a road bike or a gravel bike, then this is the best link to get your the right inner tubes for you. So why do I use TPU inner tubes instead of tubeless on my road bike? Well, I've run tubeless for a few years. It was very trendy for a bit, still is. It's very good for a lot of people. I think from working in a bike shop and having to deal with tubeless tyres a lot when they go wrong, I've noticed that they can just be a real nuisance. Initially setting them up can be a pain. It's better now that the tolerances on the tubeless rims are better, and the tyres seem to be, the technology is improving. But initially getting them seated on rims can be a real nightmare. Not always, sometimes they go on fine, but yeah, if you work in a bike shop and you're doing it all the time, you do realise that it's not always the case that they go on fine. There's some cases where they just absolute nightmare to seat. So that's one reason. The other reason is they don't always seal punctures. In fact, I think more often than not they don't seal punctures. And if you're if you ever go out on a group ride, for example, and someone gets a puncture with a tubeless tyre, it's always just yeah, such a nuisance, because the sealant goes everywhere, makes a massive mess. Repairing it takes ages, sort of faffing about, your hands get covered in sealant. Whereas if you're running an inner tube, you get a puncture, you take your tyre off, you put a new one in, and it takes 5 minutes, and then you're off again. The other thing with that is that I like to change my tyres around quite a lot. So I have, I've got my summer tyres, some 25mm Continental GP5000s that if I'm, going on a fast ride, then I'll put those on. Or if I'm, I want to change them to put my winter tyres on, then I can just quickly do that. It's not a case of, getting completely covered in tubeless sealant and having to reseat the tyres every time and going through all that faffing around. So that's the other reason. The third reason that I like the TPU inner tubes is that you can run the tubed versions of tyres as opposed to the tubeless versions, which are often lighter than the tubeless versions of tyres. Which means that you're going to have a lighter wheel overall if you're running a tubed tyre with a TPU inner tube. It's going to be lighter than if you had a tubeless tyre with the sealant in it and the tubeless valve. Yeah, so that's my thoughts on the Ridenow TPU inner tubes. There are obviously loads of different brands that you can get. I like these ones because they're really cheap and they're really good. You can obviously get some expensive ones, but if these work and they're the same weight, then why not just get the cheap ones? So yeah, thanks for watching. I'll put a link in the description. If you've got any questions about TPU inner tubes or you want to know anything about them, just let me know. So yeah, thanks for watching. I forgot to mention the wheels that I've got here. These are the Elite ENT 2.0 wheels, which are also from AliExpress. I have done another video review of these wheels, just in case you were interested in them. I'll put a link to that video in the description. Yeah, they're £250 for a set of carbon disc brake wheels. They're an absolute bargain, so yeah, go check that video out as well.